2018 Chinese Grand Prix with commentary from Martin Brundle and David Croft.
And on this sunny Shanghai Sunday, welcome along to round 3 of the Formula One World Championship in 2018. It's the 15th World Championship Chinese Grand Prix. We are here in the Yangtze River Delta. Shanghai with the longest metro system in the world. We're just concentrating on 3.38 miles of track today, not 365 miles of metro track. Valtteri Bottas, the concentration is ahead of his 100th Grand Prix start. He becomes the 6th Finnish driver to do that. His teammate Lewis Hamilton, the most successful driver at the Chinese Grand Prix. He faces an uphill task today to add to his tally of wins. He starts 4th place on the grid. The sun is out, the skies are blue, and this track should give us an excellent race this afternoon. 16 turns. You take the lap at full throttle for 54% of your lap distance. You accelerate to speeds of 200 miles an hour down the long back straight. There are 2 DRS zones, and there is action everywhere. Turns 1 and 2, Kvyat, Vettel and Raikkonen coming a cropper. Liuzzi and Kobayashi in 2010 when Jenson Button won, they were out long before he took the checkered flag. And into turn 14, 7G under braking. Rosberg and Vettel showing how it was done there in 2014. Pirelli have brought the medium tyre, the soft tyre, and not the super soft. It's the ultra soft for this weekend. How will the tyres react to a warmer track temperature than we've had so far this weekend? There is a lot of stress being placed on these tyres. And here are the grid and the 20 drivers. Sebastian Vettel on pole position. It's a Ferrari front row lockout with Kimi alongside him. Valtteri Bottas and Lewis Hamilton making an all-Mercedes row 2. And Max Verstappen out qualifying Daniel Ricciardo for an all-Red Bull row 3. Nico Hülkenberg for the 6th consecutive race starts 7th. Sergio Perez in Q3 for the first time this year is 8th. Carlos Sainz is the lead Renault. He has Romain Grosjean with the best ever start here for the Frenchman in 10th. Kevin Magnussen, Grosjean's teammate, starts 11th alongside Esteban Ocon for Force India. And then it's Fernando Alonso and Stoffel Van Dorn, the 2 McLaren drivers lining up side by side. Brendan Hartley out-qualifies his teammate Pierre Gasly. Sergei Sorokin is the lead Williams driver. Gasly last week was 5th on the grid in Bahrain. He's 17th on the grid this weekend. And it's an all-Sauber back row. Charles Leclerc ahead of Marcus Ericsson, who does take a 5-place grid penalty for ignoring double-waved yellows. It makes no difference. He was at the back anyway. That is the view from the front, Martin Brundle. For the last 2 Grand Prix here, Mercedes have won, Ferrari have come 2nd, Red Bull 3rd and 4th, and Ferrari 5th. It could happen today, but Mercedes are going to have to go some to do it.
Well, I certainly hope it doesn't in many respects, and if it does, then it's a big mix-up along the way, because I think this is as close as we've seen for a long time, with 6 runners out there again who we think have a chance to win the Grand Prix to varying extents. But Lewis Hamilton going around in these much warmer conditions. We've got 39 Celsius on the track today compared to 15 for much of qualifying. Has taken a half a degree of front wing out, which is a lot on these cars. 3 holes, they unwind it. He's felt a lot more front grip, and it's always dangerous to start trying to feel a car on the outlap because you're not really fully attacking it.
The rear is definitely the left rear is going to struggle today. Surprised that it'll be a 1-stop.
Carlos Sainz was saying the same thing from Renault to you on the grid, Martin Brundle, that the rear tyres could suffer in these temperatures.
So I listened to something like that and I think, is he sending that message out for Ferrari? I'm surprised it'll be a 1-stop. That's golden information there. So is it bluff, or is it information that's quite handy with him? And Lewis is saying, look, I think this is we're going to start punishing this left rear, and that's because turn 1 is 270 degrees right-hander. Turn 13 onto the back straight, a long right-hander, and he thinks he's going to have enough front-end grip to start really punishing the rear tyres.
Formation lap then can get underway. It is 2:10 on this Sunday afternoon here in Shanghai. The top 4 on the grid, all starting on the soft compound tyre. From Verstappen down to Grosjean in 10th, it's the ultra soft tyre to start with. Then Kevin Magnussen starting 11th, down to Stoffel Van Dorn in 14th, with Ocon and Alonso in the middle on the soft compound tyre. Hartley going aggressive, ultra soft at the start for him. Sorokin, the soft tyre. Gasly, the only one on the medium tyre, could go a very long way into this race. And then Stroll, Leclerc and Ericsson all on the soft tyre. We have a mix of strategies, a mix of compounds. This could be quite a complicated race today, Martin, until it all comes together in the last few laps. But the front four have given themselves as many options as they possibly can by using those soft tyres at the start.
And as Christian Horner said to us, if Red Bull were confident enough to get through Q2 on the slightly slower tyre, they would have done so as well. They were forced onto these ultra softs in qualifying, and it's not the optimum tyre to start the race on. It will give them, because of the extra grip of the tyre, will give them 2-3 metres, maybe more, extra grip off the line down to the first corner. And of course the cars are only split up by 4 metres.
Kimi Raikkonen then, the only man for the whole of last season and this season who hasn't gained a place on the opening lap. If that run continues today, can he play a support role to Sebastian Vettel? Is that what Ferrari will be asking of him?
Well, he's already, unfortunately for him, and I think through no fault of his own, a long way behind Vettel in the World Championship, and I hope he doesn't end up playing the bridesmaid all year long, but I think he'll be hoping that a bit of that bad luck turns around and plays into his hands for once.
Kimi Raikkonen, his 5th front row start in China. He's never been on pole here before. Sebastian Vettel has. It's his 4th pole in China. He's aiming today to become the 4th man in Formula One history to win 50 Grand Prix. What a milestone that would be for him, joining Alain Prost, Lewis Hamilton, this man, and Michael Schumacher as the only 4 that would ever have done it.
Impressive, to say the least. So I sense Lewis has got one of those kind of Mardy moods on, where he just doesn't seem happy. I don't think I can get through this through a one stop. What front wing has Valtteri got? Is he happy with that? And hopefully he'll get underway and he'll have the balance and grip that he wants. And he can sock it to the Ferraris, because we just want to see a race. I don't care who wins. I just want it to be close.
This time last week you said that Lewis Hamilton's Mardiness, to use that word, rather cost him in Bahrain.
He was so busy arguing with the team. He confirmed the information they'd given him, and then he was going, "You're not telling me enough." If he'd have actually followed that through, he still could have won the race if he'd have followed what Bono, his engineer, told him to do. Although they were having radio transmission issues, but he just wasn't going forward at the right part of the race in Bahrain.
Fans, young and old, here in Shanghai this afternoon. The grandstand's absolutely packed. It's felt like a very, very slow formation lap, but they're almost ready.
So Vettel pointing slightly right, a few degrees right, ready to cover off his teammate and any fast-starting Mercedes trying to go between the pair of them.
Yeah, maybe the best form of defence for Mercedes is attack, and Hamilton, rather than watching his wing mirrors, might like to be looking out in front. Valtteri Bottas too. Can Bottas get in amongst the Ferraris like he did in Bahrain? 2 Ferraris, 2 Mercedes, 2 Red Bull occupying the first 3 rows, and we're all set for battle here in Shanghai. It's lights out, and away we go. Good start from Vettel, good start from Raikkonen. Vettel does cut across to block out his teammate. Bottas ahead of Hamilton. Ricciardo on the inside is cut out by Verstappen, and Hülkenberg is trying to get past Ricciardo round the outside at turn 1. They've all avoided the usual chaos through the first couple of corners. Sebastian Vettel out in front ahead of Valtteri Bottas and Kimi Raikkonen, and there's a little bit of Force India running a little bit wide there, kicking up a little bit of dirt, but they're all through and onto the hairpin.
So with Vettel squeezing Raikkonen, he had to lift out on the way into turn 1 and has put Raikkonen down the field. Hamilton similarly got out of position, so it's Verstappen that's up into 3rd place.
Verstappen 3rd, Raikkonen 4th, and there's a Renault of Carlos Sainz ahead of his teammate Nico Hülkenberg, who ran wide as well. On board with Kimi Raikkonen, whose teammate Sebastian Vettel leads this race. Hamilton tried to dive down the inside. Raikkonen blocked him off there. Hamilton is looking to get on with this and make up for the opening few corners that seem to have cost him.
No DRS, no opening of the rear wing for 2 laps until after the start, or after a safety car, should we have one later on. So it'll be just about slipstreaming down the back straight, but Kimi really got a little bit squeezed by his teammate and it cost him dearly.
Look how Sebastian Vettel is launching clear of the rest of the field. Look back to how Nico Hülkenberg is ahead of Carlos Sainz once again. And there is Sebastian Vettel, from Valtteri Bottas, from Max Verstappen, and then Kimi Räikkönen, the two Renaults having a great scrap and almost banging wheels into the hairpin. Hulkenberg ahead of Sainz, ahead of Romain Grosjean, and they all get through there as Kimi Räikkönen, Lewis Hamilton and Daniel Ricciardo come through to take the final corner. Hulkenberg hanging on ahead of his teammate to that 7th place. What an opening lap it has been in terms of action for the two Renaults, but what an opening lap for Sebastian Vettel, a second clear.
See you later, son. All right, don't get greedy now, mate. That's good. Settle down.
Good start. It was a good start from Verstappen. And, well, he certainly did everything he needed to do. But Hamilton, Ricciardo on their back foot. The two Renaults need to just follow each other for a little while and try and get clear of the chasing pack, which is Grosjean and Magnussen in the Haas. They're costing each other time with the squabbling.
Worth a mention to Lance Stroll in 12th place at the moment. Very fast starting Lance Stroll. On the grid he was 18th, he's up to 12th. He makes a habit of gaining places on the opening lap, and he's done just that for Williams this afternoon. The two Force Indians of Ocon and Perez losing out to the Williams. Fernando Alonso is up to 11th place. Kevin Magnussen in the points along with Romain Grosjean as well. But out in front, Sebastian Vettel trying to extend his lead from Valtteri Bottas. At least one of the Mercedes has got ahead of one of the Ferraris, and at least one of the Red Bulls has got ahead of one of the Mercedes. It is very much game on here.
But Bottas has lost a half a second to Vettel in the middle part of this lap, and it's only 29 seconds long, just under half a minute there. Bottas on a 29.9, Vettel on 29.4, and that tells me the Ferrari's got all the pace it needs to control this race.
Kimi Räikkönen comfortably staying ahead of Lewis Hamilton there as well. Sebastian Vettel comfortably staying ahead of Valtteri Bottas. Has the Red Bull got the pace to keep tabs with the front two? Is Verstappen just dropping back a bit? They're not in DRS range. Bottas and Vettel, Verstappen on Bottas.
The only man in DRS range is Hamilton. He's within the 1 second zone to Räikkönen. So he'll be able to get his rear wing open if he can stay there during this lap. But a typical first couple of laps from Vettel, like we saw when he was busy winning.
Do you see how many places we lost because of Sergio right now? Unbelievable.
Copy that.
I wondered if one of the Force Indians had actually had a problem at the start. There seemed to be quite a bit of smoke, or if he'd run wide, kicking up a bit of dirt and that, but he's not happy, Esteban Ocon, is he?
No, I think he probably feels his teammate gave him a hard time somewhere. But Vettel then, as I say, when he started winning multiple world championships, get out front, get away from the drag reduction zone point of 1 second plus. He got a 2 second lead, and he can now control the race out front.
This is the view then from Esteban Ocon's Force India. You can see Lance Stroll ahead of him in the Williams. Williams half a second slower in qualifying yesterday than they were in China last year. But Stroll has very much made up for the disappointment of qualifying with a blistering start here in Shanghai on race day. Onto the back straight they come, slightly banked right-hand turn. Now they can start accelerating through the gears, up to 8th gear and 200 miles an hour before they slam the brakes on into the hairpin.
I've been taking people around in a beautiful Aston Martin DB11 all weekend, and that corner looks so much tighter when you're driving the track, 11 and 12, but these things just swing through there with all of the hundreds of kilos of downforce that they're generating.
Stroll is very much hanging on to the rear of Fernando Alonso as well. Alonso has got a bit of DRS assistance as he tries to get to grips with Kevin Magnussen. Back on board with Esteban Ocon once again. Ocon was within DRS range of Lance Stroll, but Stroll, I think, had a bit of DRS as well, and it's everything remaining the same down that straight.
I hate the end of that first corner that turns into turn 2 effectively. It's 270 degrees of turn 1, and then a nasty, you just slow and you go a little bit slower, and then the front won't stick and you slow a bit more. But some of the drivers really like it, and then the circuit really opens up a treat through the middle part.
So started third, moved up a place. Valtteri Bottas is 2.6 seconds behind Sebastian Vettel. That gap getting ever larger. On board with Stoffel van Dorn, he's got Sergei Sorokin just ahead of him, to former GP2 runners. Van Dorn was a GP2 champion, of course. They made their way into Formula One. They're scrapping at the moment over 15th place, which the Russian is just about hanging on to, but for how much longer, you wonder. And out in front, Max Verstappen, 1.9 seconds now behind Valtteri Bottas. Kimi Raikkonen trying to gain a little bit on Verstappen in the other Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton keeping tabs on Kimi Raikkonen, but not within striking distance just yet. The two Renaults separated a bit, Martin. They've sorted out their close calls.
On board the McLaren there, a good reminder as Ocon has another look at the back of Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll's first lap would be very much worth seeing, wouldn't it? But the Force India's a fast car, same engine, but it's a faster chassis at the moment through this season. But he's
Sirotkin is on prime, Perez in front of him on option. Let's see if we can get past Sirotkin and get into this race.
Well, that's what he will try and do. Prime, meaning the soft compound tyre. The option is something slightly softer, ultra softer here today.
Because the compound's changed, the teams just have an expression that sticks with the harder tyre and the softer tyre, the prime and option.
Yeah.
They don't talk about medium, soft and ultras like we do, unfortunately. So it gets a bit confusing. But Bottas already 2.4 seconds behind Vettel. Now he's got to get on with it now, Bottas, because he needs to stay within the undercut zone. So if he can pit earlier, if he can give his team some options, they can pit before the Ferrari. He's got a chance of getting track position out front.
So the two Ferraris got away well. This is where Sebastian Vettel cuts across and rather squeezes out Kimi Raikkonen. Bottas says, thank you very much, I'll go round the outside. And then Hamilton kind of gets caught in no man's land there with Raikkonen and then Verstappen on the inside.
Yeah, Verstappen didn't waste any time there on Hamilton and Raikkonen. Lewis definitely quite cautious through there, as you say. He found himself in no man's land. So this is what cost Kimi. He's now pinned up against the inside. The first corner is then very acute. You've got cold front tyres when you turn up and cool brakes. And Kimi then really struggling. Verstappen goes down the outside of turn 6. Pretty good stuff. And what did the two Force India boys do that they were so upset about?
Have a look in a minute. I want to look at Verstappen battling with Kimi in a moment as well, because these two have a bit of previous, Martin. I wonder if Kimi was a bit cautious with Verstappen.
So Max gets track position here. Max gets track position up the inside of Lewis. Caught him napping a bit, and now he's going to get good drive out of 4. Kimi gets a little bit of a tank slapper on, doesn't he? He got a bit too happy on the throttle. We're going to go around the outside of Kimi here. Now this is obviously Lewis we're on board with. Listen how they just have to tickle the throttle through. There's no grip. So Lewis is fancying a go around the outside of Kimi and loses a place to Verstappen now down this next straight. With Kimi getting that wobble on, now Max gets a run down the outside by the right-hand kink of turn 5, and Braver on the brakes. It just goes clean around the outside of him.
So this is Perez ahead of Ocon, and you see the McLaren of Alonso gets very close in with Perez. They actually touch, and that's the smoke that I saw. It was Perez that was running wide and kicking up a bit of dust. Stroll going around the outside of Ocon.
I don't know what Esteban was so upset about there. He just lost. I think he lost a place off the grid, but. Where are they? Down in 13th and 14th. I thought the Force Indias would be stronger than that.
Right, Ted, down to you.
Well, down at Force India, Ocon is actually team radio.
Guys, he's holding me up.
Okay, message received.
So Ocon has taken the place back from Stroll for P12. So Kevin Magnussen feeling Magnussen is now ahead of Grosjean.
Yeah.
So that must be a swap going on there. I'm just thinking, for Daniel Ricciardo's strategy, it's not enough at the moment, is it? Stuck in P6 on a tyre that's not going to last many more laps and not able to get past Hamilton. They need to do something different.
Let's talk about strategy if we can then, Martin. Who wants to show their hand first? Who wants to push others into a territory that's slightly unknown? Who's got the bravery this afternoon?
Ted's right. Ricciardo down in 6th. Red Bull have to try something from there. Almost nothing to lose. But Bottas is pegging the Ferrari out front now, so he's kept himself within the undercut zone.
Come on, it's lap 6.
Grosjean not happy giving that place to Kevin Magnussen. Cast your mind back a week and Kevin Magnussen wasn't overly happy that Romain Grosjean was ahead of him at times and felt he was rather ruining his race. Grosjean said all that's been sorted out. They might need to go back to the drawing board on the the diplomatic negotiations.
Yeah, the old debrief must be a bit tense between the two drivers at Haas. There's no love lost there at all.
Grosjean's on an ultra-soft tyre and Magnussen on the soft compound tyre. Magnussen being ahead of him is rather going to ruin Grosjean's race, you would have thought.
Yeah, and his point was, look, we're not very far into this race, but you have to say Magnussen was all over the back of him. We'll see what happens now. So Magnussen's made about a half a second up on the first lap that he's been ahead of Grosjean. So it does rather support his claim, that he was being held up.
Let's go down to the Red Bull pit wall. Christian Horner, what a start from Max Verstappen. No thoughts of Bahrain and being cautious after his clash with Lewis Hamilton last week. What a great move from the Dutchman.
Yeah, absolutely. He got a very clean start. Good first lap, good move on Lewis and on Kimi. So good to see him running up there.
What of Daniel Ricciardo, though? 6th place on the ultra-soft tyre. Not where he would want to be. How early can you risk bringing him in, do you think?
Well, his pace is looking reasonable at the moment, you know, compared to the two cars ahead of him. So, yeah, certainly no rush at this point in time.
Any call in from the drivers complaining front end, rear end, or anything like that?
No, they're miraculously quiet, Martin.
Okay. Well, if they do say anything, do come back and tell us. Christian, thanks for the time being, and we'll be back with Christian in a few moments. So, in terms of strategy, Ferrari Mercedes, starting on the soft tyre, looking at a one-stop, do you think, and very much driving as if a one-stop is still their plan A?
It could well be. Maybe they're just biding their time, and I think Vettel's now controlling his pace up front as well. He's got Bottas pegged about 2.5 seconds, and even if they don't run the full 105 kilograms of fuel allowed, sometimes they fuel low, hoping for a safety car, and then have to manage it later on if it doesn't happen. So there's got to be a little bit of fuel management going on, as always.
Here's Fernando Alonso on the back of Romain Grosjean, and they're going wheel to wheel into the hairpin. Can he switch back, Alonso, get better traction out of that hairpin and try and get past the Haas? Not on this particular occasion. Going into the final turn now, Fernando Alonso will have DRS once again. Ahead of Romain Grosjean is his teammate Kevin Magnussen. I think Grosjean's also got DRS, which is keeping him safe for the time being.
Yeah, Alonso just having to correct some oversteer, some slide there, as he was enthusiastically getting on the throttle, and his ambition just a bit ahead of Adhesion coming out of there. And Alonso, who now runs wide again in turn 3 into 4, trying to get good drive out of there, but he certainly looks like he's ready to have a pounce on Grosjean.
He does. He got off the onto the back straight, I should say, very impressively, and suddenly Romain Grosjean was defending with all he could muster. Ted, down to you.
So any of the team strategists wondering about what tyre to put on at the first stop, Scrotty, and thinking about the white stripe medium tyre, might want to take a look at Pierre Gasly's race performance, because he's quicker than his teammate Brendan Hartley, and Hartley's on the purple, supposedly quicker ultra soft tyre,
and ahead of Gasly.
I think they switched positions actually. I think Hartley was told to let Gasly through, but we'll follow that up later. But amazing pace by Gasly on the medium tyre.
Which Pirelli say the medium tyre can do at least 35 laps this afternoon. 25 laps with a soft tyre and 15 laps for the ultra soft. On board with Valtteri Bottas, that gap between himself and Sebastian Vettel staying at round about 2.5 seconds, which I suppose is Bottas protecting brake temperature, protecting tyre temperature as well.
It could be, but they're pulling clear of the rest of the pack. I mean, Hamilton now 10.4 seconds off the lead, having a very steady run there in 5th. Is he struggling, or is it just trying to get these tyres to go a few extra laps and get the one stop in?
I was going to say, is the man who said he'd be surprised if anyone did a one stop surprising himself, or was it that bluff you were maybe speculating about?
Well, we'll find out, won't we? But I don't know.
Sorry to lose a place, guys. Kimi wasn't quite aggressive.
Yeah, no stress, Lewis. Just get your head down, mate.
It is one of those Lewis days, isn't it? He's not in the finest of moods.
He does sound a touchdown, I must admit. The man who came in with the most poles and the most wins. It never looked like getting pole yesterday in qualifying, and at the moment is a long, long way off the win as well. As for Raikkonen, he's kind of maintaining a gap to Max Verstappen as well, but they can afford to do that a bit because of the top 5, only one of them on the ultra-soft tyre, Max Verstappen, should be coming in an awful lot sooner than the others.
So the two leaders then, if we can call them that, are running in the mid to high 1 minute 38. Then the next pack, Verstappen, Raikkonen, Hamilton, Ricciardo, are all low 1 minute 39s, very, very close together. And then we've kind of got the best of the rest going on as usual, haven't we? They're a full second and a bit slower, led by Hulkenberg on this occasion, and who's now a couple of seconds ahead of his teammate, Sainz.
And just outside the points, Fernando Alonso still trying to hunt down Romain Grosjean. He's kind of getting a little bit held up, I think, by Romain Grosjean. That's allowing Esteban Ocon in the Force India to gain on the two-time world champion. About 1.1 seconds between Ocon and Alonso. This man, Max Verstappen, is near enough 5 seconds behind Valtteri Bottas. Let's go down to Sky Race Control. Paul di Resta studying the undercut, which in the past has been a very handy tool indeed, Paul.
It has been, but Bottas just hanging on in there, not allowing Vettel to stretch that margin. There is a big gap behind Ricciardo, obviously the Renaults where they are, but it's kind of, you've just got to play it out and see exactly where he goes, and I think that's where Mercedes can probably play key with Hamilton to make sure Bottas makes an impact in Vettel. But there's a bit more to unfold, I think, over the next 5 or 6 laps when Red Bull are probably going to stop on this ultra-soft as well.
And Grosjean is calling in to his team at Haas saying, get off these ultra-softs as soon as we can.
Rears maybe starting to go a little bit on the softest compound tyre as Sebastian Vettel on lap 11 of this Chinese Grand Prix continues to lead. He has led every single lap of this race so far, and in 2018 he's now led 100 laps in total out of a possible 126. Taken the first 2 races of the season and looking in commanding form so far here in Shanghai on this Sunday afternoon. 100 laps out of 128 so far in this 2018 season for Sebastian Vettel. And what will it do for Ferrari's confidence to go back to Maranello, Martin, after the first 3 races of the season, having won all 3 of them as well?
Well, they haven't won it yet, Crofty, but I think they'll be pretty pleased with themselves. Yeah. And they'll, you know, they got lucky. Vettel got lucky in the first race, but really, they've dominated these next 2, haven't they?
Haven't they just? They're waiting at Force India for Esteban Ocon. Soft tyres going on to replace the softs that he started on. Ted, down to you.
There was a little problem on the right rear, so this is the undercut Force India are trying. The Pink Panthers are going to try and spring a trap on Fernando Alonso. Let's see if McLaren responds.
Fernando Alonso is trying to spring the trap on Romain Grosjean, and this time the old switcheroo at turn 6 rather than turn 14 might just have worked out, but Grosjean's got the inside line through turn 7 and just cuts him off. Nice battle emerging here between Grosjean and Alonso.
Yeah, and Fernando knows it's going to be really dirty on the outside there. It's not anything to do with any kind of racing line. It's also thick end of 5G, 5 times the force of gravity, the lateral forces going through there. So if you suddenly get out on the discarded rubber, you're going straight off the racetrack. You can recover from there usually, but he knew that Grosjean was just fast enough to keep the racing line, and he just had to get out of the throttle.
But this scrap's not going to help Fernando Alonso protect himself against Esteban Ocon, because the longer this goes on, the more chance Ocon is going to have, when Alonso pits, of getting ahead of the McLaren and maybe ahead of the Haas as well.
And Ocon's done the fastest middle sector of anybody so far on those new tyres.
Just looking, they have 2 sets of new soft tyres to Force India. Ocon is currently sporting one of them at the moment. There you can see, fastest middle sector. We're on board with Stoffel Van Dorn behind the other Force India of Sergio Perez, who is diving into the pits now. So Force India playing their hand a little bit early as well. And neither Romain Grosjean nor Fernando Alonso coming into the pits just yet, but Carlos Sainz is, and he's gone on to the medium compound side.
3.9, very steady stop there.
So where does Sainz come out into this racetrack? Just ahead of Esteban Ocon. Down in 17th place. Gap out in front To remind you, 3 seconds between Sebastian Vettel and Valtteri Bottas. 5.3 seconds then back to Max Verstappen, who should be coming onto the back straight now, and is. Kimi Raikkonen follows on very much in the distance, and Lewis Hamilton losing a bit more time to Kimi Raikkonen on that last lap, down in 5th place. In fact, Daniel Ricciardo starting to catch Lewis Hamilton a little bit, and he's tantalisingly 0.2 of a second outside of DRS range of the Mercedes.
So Vettel 25 seconds ahead of Hülkenberg. It's 22 to 23 to make a pit stop. So if he wants to stop at any point and get ahead of the game, he can. He's not going to get caught up in any kind of midfield battle.
Ted, down to you.
So do we think that Kimi Raikkonen is kind of sort of sleepwalking Lewis Hamilton into a slow pace? Or do you think Hamilton might have the pace? Because have a look at it. Hamilton on sort of 139s, Bottas in the same car 138s, and then Raikkonen 139s as well. Vettel in the same car as Raikkonen 138s as well. I wonder if it's a Ferrari tactic, just getting Kimi to slow down the pace to compromise Hamilton as much as possible.
Well, we did speculate a little bit on this one. Would Ferrari split the responsibilities for their drivers for this race? In comes Nico Hülkenberg, medium compound tyre, like Carlos Sainz going on for him as well. He'll come out, hopefully for him, in front of the Sauber of Charles Leclerc, but not to be, because Leclerc has gone through, and also Pierre Gasly in the Toro Rosso.
Well, for Mercedes' sake, they need to hope that Hamilton is just biding his time, trying to get the one stop to work, and he's got to use the performance later on.
And there, Nico Hülkenberg on that fresh set of rubber, getting past Pierre Gasly. The Toro Rosso not exactly holding him up very much. Charles Leclerc, the next one ahead. Leclerc out qualifying his teammate Marcus Ericsson for the first time in Formula One yesterday. Hülkenberg now on those medium compound tyres on a stint that could take him very near to the end of this race. Back with Fernando Alonso, who is still behind Romain Grosjean. And this is where he's probably muttering under his breath, Martin, all for a little bit more horsepower from my Renault engine.
He's certainly got the grip, though, hasn't he, from time to time? But that little contretemps in turn 7 put him back, and he's not really going to close it up again since then.
And closing up behind him, Lance Stroll. We're on board with Nico Hülkenberg down that back straight. Charles Leclerc was alongside. Charles Leclerc is now about a car length behind, and Hülkenberg's made up those 2 places he needed to. Here's his teammate Carlos Sainz joining the back of the Toro Rosso, and Sergio Perez down the inside into the hairpin on Marcus Ericsson, making up a place after his pit stop as well.
Yeah, and that's just extra grip off that very long turn 13 onto the back straight. You come off, you release off the corner with so much more speed, and you carry that extra speed all the way down the straight. Despite the drag trying to hold you back, you just keep that advantage.
So this is where Lewis Hamilton on the last lap made up time on Kimi Raikkonen in the middle and final sector. Took 3.5 tenths out of Raikkonen's advantage as Sainz has a little look at Gasly, and now will size up the Frenchman going down towards turn 6. Gasly covers him well. Nice defensive driving there from the man who this time last week was running very much in the points positions in Bahrain, but he's scrapping along Pierre Gasly down in 15th at the moment. But for how much longer? Sainz tries to go around the outside, nothing doing for this moment in time. This is nice driving from Gasly, good defensive work.
Yeah, it's costing Sainz badly with those fresh tyres on, but even with those fresh tyres against Gasly, he still couldn't find any purchase around the outside of T7.
Renault's just struggling a little bit in comparison there to the Honda-powered Toro Rosso. Just out in front. Valtteri Bottas now 3.5 seconds back on Sebastian Vettel. Max Verstappen 6 seconds down in the podium places after making up spots on Raikkonen and Hamilton off the line. Here goes Carlos Sainz once again. Gets a nice slipstream and a tow, and DRS as well to help him past Pierre Gasly. Slams on the brakes into the hairpin, and Carlos Sainz is up into 15th place. He's pitted. His teammate Nico Hülkenberg has pitted. Esteban Ocon, Sergio Perez and Brendan Hartley, the others that have pitted too. And on lap 16 now, that pit window might just start to open for some of the runners and riders a little further ahead.
Vettel's got it covered at the front, hasn't he? I mean, he's 13 odd seconds ahead of Hamilton already. If he gets to more than 22, it doesn't matter what Hamilton does. He's a pit stop ahead of him.
Absolutely. Unless Hamilton, on a one-stop strategy, can find a little bit of extra pace. But at the moment, jammed up behind Kimi Räikkönen, 2.5 back, he can't find that extra pace. If he does get closer, Martin, he starts to wear out his tyres that little bit more, and that doesn't help him in a bid to make this one-stop strategy work.
And there's a big meeting coming up this week where they want to try and change some elements of the front wing, the way the air flows through the wheels, and the rear wing to try to improve this overtaking situation from next season. They can't do it this year. And if they're going to make a fundamental change like that, which will cost a lot of money for the teams, the new aero package completely in concept.
I'll get closer, Kimmy.
Okay, copy.
Then they
So how much are you being held up, do you think?
I'm pushing, trying to keep up.
So maybe they're thinking of a two-stop, but yes, and if they're going to make fundamental aero changes for next year to improve overtaking and following of other cars, that's DRS assisted and new tyre assisted, that one, then it's got to be in place by April the 30th.
Yes, otherwise after that they need total unanimous agreement. A majority agreement will do before then. Daniel Ricciardo saying that he can't really get any more out of his ultra-soft tyres as well. And down at Haas, into the pits comes Romain Grosjean, which will be a relief, I'm sure, to Fernando Alonso, who's been staring at the rear wing of that Haas for quite some time now. Grosjean will come out onto the track in roundabouts. Just trying to think, by Marcus Ericsson, around about 19th place.
I sense the teams we've seen pit stopping so far, Crofty, they're a little bit more measured, the pit stopping. So let's get all four wheels on and send it at the right time, rather than some magical new fastest stop, because they look, I don't know, maybe it's just in my head, but they look a little bit more deliberate, shall I say.
Did you think that Charlie Whiting, the race director, has just appealed for a little bit of calm after the unsafe releases in Bahrain, in Australia and in Bahrain, and of course the accident to the Ferrari mechanic, Francesco Ciliani, who I'm sure is watching the race as his recovery continues back in Italy, and is probably very happy indeed with the way Ferrari are performing. Max Verstappen coming into the pits. Ted.
And it's the medium tyre. So is this an experiment on a long middle stint for a two-stop, or is this an experiment for a one-stop? And it's exactly the same for Daniel Ricciardo on the same lap. So fantastic work. They more or less stacked the Red Bulls, didn't they? Putting both guys in and servicing them very quickly on the same lap.
It's right outside our window, Ted. Ricciardo was approaching the pit box literally as Verstappen was leaving, and they knew they'd got just enough time, but that's a high-risk strategy, isn't it? if the first pit stop has a problem, you've ruined both your races out there with both cars.
But if it comes off, there's the element of surprise there, and now Mercedes and Ferrari have got to react, Martin, not just to one car with the undercut, but to two. Great work. And it wasn't exactly slow stops either. 2.3 seconds Verstappen was in for.
It did turn up like a London bus very shortly after the other one.
Right. So what does that then do? What is the chain effect from Red Bull coming in and getting rid of those ultra-soft tyres?
I get that with Ricciardo, but I'm surprised they did it with Verstappen as well.
Mercedes are reacting, coming out into the pit lane.
Box, 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 box. Do the opposite to Räikkönen. Do the opposite to Räikkönen.
So Räikkönen stays out. Hamilton does do the opposite and comes in for his pit stop. So this is now Mercedes reacting to the Red Bull undercut, but also trying the undercut themselves on Ferrari. The undercut where the car behind stops first, gets new rubber, gets a faster lap in and tries, before the man in front has chance to react, to jump a place in the pit stop.
There goes the Red Bull. So there's a zero chance of rain today, and therefore they have to use two of the three compounds. So how is this looking? It's very tight. He just gets through ahead of the Haas, ahead of the traffic. Does Lewis Hamilton, and
not just ahead of the Haas, but Daniel Ricciardo, Martin, as well.
Right in there.
Kevin Magnussen might just have helped out Lewis Hamilton a little bit there by being on the track ahead of that Red Bull.
Yeah.
Push hard now. Give it everything.
It because they might think that Kimi Raikkonen is coming in as well, but there's no reaction yet from that Ferrari garage. The mechanics still sat on their chairs. Ricciardo has got past Magnussen on fresher rubber. Verstappen is flying through the first sector with a 26.1 here, currently in 4th place, but of course after changing tyres, getting that extra grip, we're on board with Valtteri Bottas.
So surely Mercedes will have to react with Bottas pretty
They
soon.
are.
Box.
Because Verstappen's flying out there.
Sebastian Vettel goes through to start lap 20 of this Chinese Grand Prix. Bottas in second, pits.
Yeah, Mercedes at the beginning of the pit lane as the world champions in this layout. 80 kilometres per hour, 50 miles per hour that he's limited to. You can get straight up to your 50. That's why they launch like that. Max
Verstappen should just be coming around the final turn about now, as Valtteri Bottas comes out into the racetrack proper, and they had to react to Max Verstappen there. One more lap and chances are Max Verstappen would have had the undercut on Valtteri Bottas. Verstappen's just set a new fastest lap of the race. Paul di Resta is at Sky Race Control. The one team that aren't reacting to this, Paul, is Ferrari.
Yeah, and they could lose this in both accounts, with Raikkonen losing out to Hamilton and equally Vettel. I mean, what it does is they have a bad pit stop, it already puts Bottas in front. Mercedes have took this race to them, as have Red Bull, so Ferrari really tense at the moment sitting on that pit wall, and I would not like to be in their position should they lose out.
Yeah, it's sometimes easier, Martin, to be the underdog rather than the one out in front.
Because you've got nothing to lose. You know, right, Vettel had the pace, he had the track position. It's like, let's do something a little bit different and challenge them. And it is interesting that Ferrari haven't felt the need to, been panicked into, or realised, we'll find out which, they need to do in terms of pitting their cars.
Meanwhile, we're watching Stroll, Van Dorn and Hulkenberg, 9th, 10th and 11th, and for the first time this season, Williams running in a points position. Ted, down to you.
So Ferrari are reacting, and it has to be with Sebastian Vettel, because if they pit now and have a decent pit stop, then he's safe to Bottas. He is safe to Bottas, so let's watch it. Okay, Kimi Raikkonen, I agree with Paul, is looking at losing the place to Lewis Hamilton. That's a good stop. A bit tentative, I guess. They've had different procedures. Let's see where he turns out compared to Bottas.
Right, so there's Kimi Raikkonen going through turn 1. He's in the lead of this race. Here comes Valtteri Bottas.
This is going to be so
This
close.
is very tight indeed. Sebastian Vettel comes out. Bottas gets past Sebastian Vettel. The undercut has worked for Mercedes. Bottas ahead of the man that was leading this race. Ferrari left Sebastian Vettel out there, and it has cost him for the time being.
And it looks like Hamilton might well do the same then with Raikkonen, who hasn't pitted yet. So you have to say Ferrari caught napping, because they're out of track position and they're on exactly the same tyre strategy, barring a lap or two to the end of the race.
And now this race has suddenly swung and turned on its head somewhat. Here at the Chinese Grand Prix, we are on lap 21. The man out in front is Kimi Raikkonen. He hasn't pitted yet.
Good job.
The man we're riding on board with, whose race engineer Tony Ross is saying good job to, is Valtteri Bottas, who pitted ahead of Sebastian Vettel and is now ahead of Sebastian Vettel on the track. Max Verstappen runs in 4th place. Lewis Hamilton is now right behind Max Verstappen. There's about 3 seconds difference between those two cars. Daniel Ricciardo runs in 6th place, ahead of Kevin Magnussen and Fernando Alonso, whose teammate Stoffel Van Dorn is getting rather frustrated behind Lance Stroll, I'm sure.
Mercedes have just come alive with both cars. They're just starting to apply pressure to the opposition, and these tyres are working very well for them, certainly on the outlap and the first flying lap.
The race was just heading into a bit of a lull, wasn't it, Martin? But suddenly things have swung around very dramatically indeed.
But we've been talking since the beginning of the show, and Ann Davis did a piece earlier on as well.
So you need to stay in front of Vettel.
And Davis is saying, you know, the undercut's so powerful. We've all been saying that fresh tyres are worth so much around this track. And
Absolutely.
Ferrari have given up track position.
So Stoffel Van Dorn getting frustrated and now getting overtaken by Nico Hulkenberg. Van Dorn hasn't stopped yet. Hulkenberg has. And the Renault can now go and chase after Lance Stroll, who's still yet to make his pit stop, and we can head down to 10.
I think the problem for Ferrari, Martin, was a slow pit stop and the fact that Bottas in that last sector was absolutely mighty, because when Vettel came in, he had a 23-second gap to Bottas, and the gap that you need, we all thought, was 22 seconds. So Ferrari thought they had it safe. That's why I thought they had it safe as well. But then it was a 2.8 second pit stop, wasn't it? Because they're having to take it so steadily after their problems in Bahrain, and that was 0.8 of a second longer than perhaps it should have been at Ferrari. So I think it's the slow pit stop that's done for them there.
Now Hamilton gaining on Max Verstappen as well. His race has somewhat come alive on these medium compound tyres as well, and he's now 2.2 seconds, 2.3 seconds behind Max Verstappen. That gap coming down all the while. Red Bull, Mercedes, Red Bull down that back straight. Kimi Raikkonen carries on out in front. What do they do with Kimi Raikkonen, Martin? Do they just run him as long as they possibly can? Keep going, Kimi. You never know, something might work in your favour.
Well, they ought to be able to one stop from there on the tyres they've gone out on, didn't they? So I don't know what they can do with Kimi much.
Hulkenberg on Stroll. That seemed fairly easy, and should be, because Lance Stroll has been running those tyres for the entirety of this race, and Hulkenberg has made his pit stop.
If Kimi pits now, he'll come out in 6th place. All right, he'll have fresher tyres because, for example, Bottas was in on lap 19, Hamilton on lap 18, Verstappen 17, and of course the same time as Ricciardo on lap 17. So the only advantage Kimi's going to have is if they do one stop with better tyres at the end of the race.
Could do with a virtual safety car, possibly. Kimi Raikkonen. So committing really to that one-stop strategy. Not, of course, that Mercedes with Bottas or with Hamilton have to stop again. They might need to stop again if their tyres start to degrade and fall away, but by the letter of the law, because they've run 2 different types of dry compound, they don't necessarily have to stop again.
No, they took a lot of energy out of the tyres, didn't they, in those opening laps, trying to get the undercut to work, which is not always a good thing. But the only other thing they could do with Kimi now is run him longer on these tyres and then try a set of ultras at the end to give him some pace. But as I say, if he came in now, Ricciardo was 21 seconds off the lead. Kimi would come out behind Daniel Ricciardo in 6th position.
Now let's put this into the mix as well, Martin. The longer that they keep Kimi Raikkonen out there, and the longer that Valtteri Bottas starts to gain on him, eventually Bottas is going to be slowed down by him. And that rather helps out the other red car behind the silver one.
Can't use Kimi Raikkonen as a blocker, for goodness sake.
I'm just making the point.
I know, you're making a very valid point, but...
We need to increase our pace. 4 tenths. Ocon is doing 39.5.
That's not possible.
Okay, copy, keep on pushing.
That's kind of a school report. You must try harder, isn't it? At the end of the year, you don't want to give to your parents.
So what you're basically saying is Kimi Raikkonen is like a state-of-the-art hob and oven that you just cook beans on toast on. It's a waste of his talent.
Yes, you can't use him to just slow Bottas up to help Vettel, but I think they can, because they started those tyres. I mean, it looks pretty steady coming. It almost looks slow-mo coming off T30. It's a long camera shot, but I don't think he's exactly got a whole lot of grip out there, and he's lapping 1 to 1.5 seconds a lap off the pace, which is why those two are homing in on him. And I think the message to Bottas was, we think you're all going to the end. Do not let number 5 past you. You didn't pass him last weekend. Do not let him pass you this weekend.
Yeah. He did a very good job in Russia last year, where you took your maiden victory, and Sebastian Vettel couldn't find a way past. So maybe the best form of attack today is defence, Valtteri. Job clear, the head of track activities at Ferrari, watching not himself in the mirror, but the guys back in the garage. And Ferrari so far have been just outthought a little bit by Mercedes, but there's still a very long way to go. We're only on lap 25 here of this Chinese Grand Prix, and the gap between Bottas and Vettel is getting a lot narrower.
I wonder why they need mirrors up there to see the pit stops, why they don't just turn around.
Maybe he's got a stiff neck. I don't know.
I saw them in the week, and I meant to ask, actually, but I will ask and let you know.
Yes, mirror signal, and don't need to manoeuvre on that one. Ted, to you.
Yeah, just a quick one on Fernando Alonso, still hasn't stopped. He's been losing time in traffic, we understand, via the team radio, because at the moment Ocon, having pitted earlier, is going to beat him after Alonso stops. And McLaren know that, and have asked Fernando that they advise Fernando that they want to extend this stint to try and get a gap to Ocon, because at the moment McLaren's going to lose the place to the Force India, but Alonso's saying the front left tyre is almost finished.
So what do you do if you're Valtteri Bottas here, Martin? You're suddenly going to find yourself like a rather live tuna amongst two very hungry sharks.
Yes, well, it's his fellow countryman he's catching, who's leading the race, Kimi Räikkönen, but there's no love lost between them at all. There's been a bit of bodywork lost between them over the years. And he is now, he's going to get pinched between the two Ferraris. He's only really got to think about one now, hasn't he? About the one behind him, and he needs the widest Mercedes ever created.
That was Stroll coming out of the pits. It's Van Dorn inching ahead, not quite getting ahead, and Stroll coming back at him. This was a very, very tight indeed. Great car control so far, and then Van Dorn does rather run in, by the looks of it, on board there to Lance Stroll. Yeah, that's it.
The curbs on the inside are rather high. The tyres vibrate and lose grip. That was a good manoeuvre there, and Van Dorn maintains the position.
Kevin Magnussen has pitted. He's back out in 10th place in the points for Haas. And yeah, this squeeze is now being applied to Valtteri Bottas. Kimi's doing his thing. What was 4.8 seconds gap is now 0.8 seconds worth of a gap. But of course that now brings Valtteri Bottas into DRS range on the Ferrari. So what he needs to do is to try and get past Kimi as swiftly as he possibly can.
Yeah, he's a lot faster, and that's a sort of a half-hearted one there.
Yeah, he had a little bit more to lose on that occasion than the final lap in Bahrain, but he might need to be a bit more aggressive. A lot of vibrations there on Grosjean's.
Yeah, he'd obviously locked his front tyres at some point and got a flat spot, but looks like he's going to take off like Dumbo the elephant, doesn't it, in terms of...
Into turn one we go. Bottas round the outside on Kimi Räikkönen. Bottas will now have the inside line if he can just hang on there. Into turn three. Very nice indeed, but he hasn't got it completed just yet. Kimi Räikkönen going wide. Sebastian Vettel slots behind his teammate now as Valtteri Bottas takes the lead of the Chinese Grand Prix. For one half moment, Räikkönen tried to dive down the inside. That didn't work for him. Worked for Sebastian Vettel, who now makes up a place on Kimi and moves into second. And Bottas is still under pressure from a Ferrari, but it's Sebastian Vettel this time around.
And he's wide through 7, which is going to compromise him a bit in 8, but good move from Bottas around the outside of turns 1 and 2. But it's certainly put Vettel straight onto his tail, but Vettel's now in the turbulent air. I thought Räikkönen was going to come back up the inside of the Mercedes there, but then I think he realised he's got to get out of the way for his teammates.
Yeah, I wonder if the order was, no, don't try and get past. We actually need Sebastian at this moment to have an attack on Valtteri Bottas, because you haven't pitted yet, Kimi. So Kimi loses the lead of this race. He's down in 3rd place now. Valtteri Bottas has clear air ahead of him in his 100th Grand Prix. He leads the Chinese Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel has DRS, has a look, realises he's too far back. For the time being, will stay in 2nd place.
With that DRS down the back straight, he can come off turn 13 anywhere near the back of the Mercedes and get a bit punchy on the brakes. It looks doable, doesn't it?
So Bottas from Vettel, from Räikkönen, the top 3, as into turn 1 we go. DRS once again for Sebastian Vettel, and Kimi Räikkönen is coming into the pits. Ted.
Yeah, and that's a pretty much disastrous strategy for him. He's going to be beaten now by Hamilton and both the Red Bulls.
The one thing he's done is he's allowed Sebastian Vettel to close right up on Valtteri Bottas, but that is not why Kimi Räikkönen wants to go racing, I'm sure. Look at that. Was leading the race, Martin. Pits, now comes out in 6th.
Is that why he gets up in the morning and goes in the gym? He certainly did look like he was used as a roadblock there.
So, Bottas.
This is a great move from Bottas. Got more grip, of course. Kimi's been on those tyres since the start of the race, and that could so easily be a tangle. Good driving from both of us. Fair driving from Raikkonen, it must be said. Would have been very easy for him to tap the Mercedes there into a spin.
A lot of respect, I think, from Kimi Raikkonen. So the net result, Martin, from Mercedes' aggressive strategy is they've removed one Ferrari out of play here.
Yeah, and got ahead of one of them.
They might,
in fact, got ahead of both of them with both their cars.
They might still be under pressure for the remaining laps of this Grand Prix from Sebastian Vettel. And if they do need to stop again, then the undercut could work in Ferrari's favour. You never know. But they have taken one red car out of the equation.
You mentioned it earlier on, when Bottas was ahead of Vettel at the Russian Grand Prix, he did not lose his head. He had a couple of squirmy moments with lock brakes and all that, but he showed last year he can cope with this kind of pressure. Somebody's
Charles Leclerc
been for a little
joyride.
Ride.
Yeah, had a spin at the final corner yesterday. Down at the first couple of corners, he's gone off into the gravel and he's depositing the stones back onto the track again.
Charles was expected to be the wonder boy, wasn't he? But he's had a difficult... normally I'd expect he wouldn't get out of that, but it's obviously a bit baked and a bit crispy, and off he goes.
Charles Leclerc, the first man to win GP3 and then F2, or GP2, F2 titles in successive years. Great reputation, but finding that the learning process gets ever harder when you reach Formula One.
Might have needed a virtual safety car there had he not got out. It was really in the firing line around the outside of 1 into 2. Right, Sebastian Vettel, World Championship leader, no longer leader of this Grand Prix. What can he do to navigate past the Mercedes, and what can the Mercedes do to make sure it doesn't happen?
Well, first things first, he's got to keep that gap under 1 second through the DRS detection zones, and then he gets that extra boost from the gap opening in the rear wing to help him along and to help him close up on Valtteri Bottas. How much longer he can run at this distance behind Mercedes is what I'm sure they're trying to work out at the track and back at Maranello, because it doesn't do tyres, brakes, car, driver's perspiration any good running too close to a Formula One car in front.
DRS wide open there for Vettel, and it has to go off when they touch the brakes or they release it themselves, because you steam into turn 1. There's no obvious point where you brake into that corner to get the DRS closed.
5 previous starts.
Consistent point, I should say. 5
previous starts here in Shanghai for Valtteri Bottas. Never finished in the top 5. Never led a lap here before as well. It's all coming good for him at the moment on a beautiful sunny afternoon.
He's just got to blank his mirrors out and drive. The turbulent air pouring off the back of that Mercedes is hurting the tyres and the cooling of the Ferrari. When he comes up to traffic, and there is a bit of traffic congested around the track.
To see Sebastian Vettel running a little wider. Look at the tyre. Look at the right rear tyre, Martin. A stripe emerges.
Yeah, it's odd though on the outside. If it's going to blister, it would be on the inside. You run some camber on the rear, and it loads the inside of the tyre more.
And there's a yellow flag because the 2 Toro Rossos have got very close together. Down at the hairpin, Pierre Gasly and Brendan Hartley coming a bit of a cropper there, and Hartley coming off worse. I wonder what happened there to the 2 Toro Rossos.
Golden rule number 1, don't run into your teammate, if indeed that's what's happened.
Right, so the Sauber goes through, Hartley ahead of Gasly. Gasly gets very, very close, and Hartley was in the way as Gasly couldn't slow the car down in time.
Yeah, young Gasly blotting his copybook. That's 100% his fault.
What the fuck, are you close the door?
Well, Pierre, the door's got to be open before you can close it.
Wasn't even slightly ajar?
Ajar it was, but this is, I think, that's not an overtaking move. That's, I'm going to have to give that 100% to young Pierre, I'm afraid.
Finding life a lot tougher than it was in Bahrain 7 days ago, Pierre Gasly.
I mean, there's a point where you take your eyes off the mirror and focus on the end of the braking zone. You're doing 200 miles an hour into that braking zone there, braking in 90 metres before the corner, and from 315, 320 kph into there to keep it all metric. And there's a point where you stop looking in your mirrors because you know you're not under attack and start focusing on the apex.
On board with Sebastian Vettel then, round about second behind Valtteri Bottas. Kevin Magnussen closing in to within half a second of Carlos Sainz, less than half a second on Carlos Sainz. Bottas into the hairpin. Vettel is there, but he just isn't quite in touching distance, and I just wonder, there's a lot of debris down there, Martin, into that hairpin. Does that need sweeping away?
Well, the cars will sweep it away, but it's a great chance of...
Yeah, I think we need a safety car. There's too many debris.
And a safety car is exactly what they have got, which I wonder if means people are going to dive into the pits, and one of the Red Bulls has dived into the pits. It's Max Verstappen, who did a brilliant job to get past the Toro Rosso on the run into the pit lane as well. Ted, down to you.
Yeah, right in front of me, so he's going to put the soft tyres on, and this is a gift for anybody who's worried about getting to the end on those white striped medium tyres.
And it's a double stack for Red Bull, because in comes Ricciardo as well.
And I wonder, Crofty, if it'll be a gift for Valtteri Bottas as well, with that worrying line of blisters or whatever they were on his right front tyre. Let's see what Mercedes and Ferrari do.
But the safety car came out at the wrong time for them, Ted. They couldn't get in the pits, some of them.
But Red Bull very much took advantage. Paul di Resta at Sky Race Control.
Yeah, Red Bull definitely not sleeping on that pit wall. Why did Mercedes not pull Hamilton in? And equally, Raikkonen being that far behind, why not stick him in the softer tyre? They've really been caught out here, and Red Bull thinking well ahead of the game here. And I think that soft tyre, when you get released here, there's nothing you're going to do to be able to stop them, because you're going to have so much more grip. And obviously that advantage they've got, they're already behind the safety car, so Red Bull will queue up in front.
In comes Nico Hülkenberg as well. That is Valtteri Bottas's partner, his wife Amelia, concerned, and maybe she has reason for concern, Martin.
Indeed, but of course track position. Some teams might think track position means more to me than a fresh set of tyres at this point, given the issues of following, sort of, say, through turn 13. But again, Red Bull, I think with nothing to lose, let's just roll those dice.
And that, Christian Horner, is sometimes a nice position to be in, because some are damned if they do, damned if they don't. You have nothing to lose, and at the moment, looks like you might not be damned at all.
Yeah, we've taken a more aggressive route with this safety car. The guys have done 2 great double stops in the pit lane today, so it should make an exciting, last part of the race.
Take us through, if you can, Christian, the procedure there. When did you guys make that call, and where were your cars on the track when you made that call?
They were about exiting turn 14 of the car, so pretty last minute.
It's a brilliant job then to do not just 1 pit stop but 2 for the second time in this race at such short notice.
Yeah, absolutely. The guys this weekend have done an amazing job with the engine change yesterday. 2 double pit stops, which are pretty complicated to execute, and they've now both of them within 2.5 seconds.
So what do you think this means for you now, Christian? Where do you think this puts you? A chance podiums, or you think, hey, we can still win this?
Let's see, Martin. I mean, it's put us on a better tyre. You can hear from Lewis that overtaking is pretty tricky, but I think we got a good tyre to the end of the race now, hopefully.
And we're just seeing a replay here. I caught it out of our commentary box window. Max did very well to get past the Toro Rosso and not be held up by any fraction of a second on the run down to the pit lane entrance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good stuff. Christian, thank you very much. So the Toro Rosso is requiring a little bit more of a repair job. Their accident has led to the safety car. The minute we saw it, Martin, and the debris on the track, we speculated, do we need a safety car here? And at Mercedes and Ferrari, they didn't have the time to react.
No, they were so close to the pit in, that's why. And I think the Red Bulls, being just that little bit further behind, had a bit more thinking time. And of course, it's the other 2 Red Bull cars that tripped over each other to cause the safety car. But the problem with shards of carbon fibre like that, it can puncture your tyre so quickly and or fly through the air. And you've got to think about the marshals on the corners with pieces of carbon flying through the air, and of course the drivers themselves. So
it's going to take a while, I think, to get the lapped cars, Leclerc and Ericsson, out of the way. At the moment, they're all in amongst the leading group. Bottas, Vettel, Hamilton, Verstappen, Raikkonen and Ricciardo are the top 6, with those 2 Red Bulls on fresher tyres. Paul di Resta at Sky Race Control. how much more of an advantage when we get going do those fresher tyres give the two Red Bull guys?
I think certainly quite a lot, Crofty, as the safety car comes in. But one of the big things with this medium tyre and doing a one-stop, you lose so much gauge on the tyre. Keeping it in the temperature window is key to the performance. Now, if you have this safety car right in the middle of the stint when they're worn, you never really get them fired back up, and I think that's probably where Red Bull have jumped on it and tried to do it. Verstappen, I think, is going to be key as the restart happens. He's going to be making challenges down into turn 5, straight out of the box, ready to go, and he's got the confidence and the grip to be able to make these dives. And I think equally, if he doesn't do it early, I think it'll still come back to him because the tyres will fire up a lot quicker.
And Martin Brundle, this might be good news, this safety car, not just for the two Red Bull drivers.
Indeed, Kimi out there, having lost all that time, has now got 7 lap fresher tyres than, for example, Bottas. 8 laps fresher than his, 7 laps fresher than his teammate Vettel. So he can definitely get to the end, I would say now, especially with a couple of safety car laps as we get ready to resume.
What is really interesting for me here is that the Chinese Grand Prix is a race that we don't often get retirements. China 2016, one of 7 races in the history of the Formula One World Championship with no retirements in it whatsoever. We haven't had a retirement so far today either. 2011, 2012, we had just the 1 retirement, 2 in 2014, 3 in 2016. But we do get safety cars here. This is the 4th Chinese Grand Prix in a row which we have had a safety car. So you'd think that the likes of Mercedes and Ferrari and the raft of engineers that study the big data might have been expecting one at some stage.
Yes, well, 60% chance historically since 2004 of a safety car here, but as they let the lapped runners through, and they'll give them some time. They don't tend to let them catch all the way back. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but they should let them get clear, and then we can get back with the racing again. But it is very unusual. Those two stats sort of clash, really, don't they? With lots of safety cars, but very few retirements. And I think because we get a lot of scuffles down at the hairpin, for example, and then there's also some quite good runoff areas here where you could go off and have an adventure and not make anything that's going to wreck your car.
Ted, let's go down to you as into the pits comes Sergei Sorokin.
Yes, Williams trying to rescue something from this race, but I tell you who that safety car worked well for, and that was Magnussen and Alonso. So not so good for the Force Indians, actually. Ocon and Perez have stopped again under the safety car. Yes, they will have fresh tyres, but as far as Ocon goes, he was fighting with Alonso early on, but now they'll have exactly the same fresh tyres as each other.
Just confirm that you received this message. Lapped cars may now overtake.
Yeah, but there's no lap cars behind me, is there?
Okay, good point.
Sometimes you can just have a bit too much detail in life, and Kevin Magnussen is not a man who wanted that detail whatsoever.
So the lap cars are about a third of a lap ahead now. No sign of them switching the safety car lights off to restart the race. Hopefully we're not going to wait for them to catch up. Looks like we might be.
Yeah, so we've probably got at least one more lap here. George Russell, GP3 champion, and you can follow his action on Sky Sports F1 and the F2 series this season. Watching on from the Mercedes garage. It's a Mercedes car that is out in front at the moment.
France is super cold.
Tyre temperatures on the mind of Lewis Hamilton. Valtteri Bottas leading the race. The car out in front is a Mercedes. It's the safety car, which this season, Martin, can go roughly 7 seconds a lap quicker. But is it going quickly enough for the Formula One cars?
It doesn't look it, does it? It looks pretty steady out there. Now, they have to remember, safety car is in this lap. They have to remember that the safety car line is before the last corner. You can overtake into the last corner as this, under the restart. You don't have to wait until the start-finish line.
Yeah.
And Vettel will be all over the back.
Is it me, or have I got a bunch of cars that have new tyres on behind me?
No, Lewis, it's not you. You have. Max Verstappen, Kimi Raikkonen and Daniel Ricciardo all have much fresher tyres, and the two Red Bulls have tyres that are almost brand spanking new. This is going to be tricky for Hamilton, going to be tricky for Bottas, and probably tricky for Vettel too.
Yeah, Lewis pitted on the 18th lap, put these tyres on.
I mean, it's in one way, it's helping the one-stop strategy for the top three, but in another way, they might like a bit more grip out there.
And of course, they've got to get the medium tyre back up to temperature and pressure now. It's harder to do. So the Red Bulls should have loads of grip on this restart. Loads of grip.
Remember Baku last year where we had all sorts of chaos at the restarts?
Mind your safety car line 1 is before pit entry, as you know. Keep working on your tyres.
Well, we might just get it here as well, and that's not a bad message to Sebastian Vettel, Martin, pointing out what the comment you just made, but to put that fresh in the driver's mind.
Yeah, it does remind the other teams as well to look out for the launch, but so as soon as the safety car gets out of the way, it's the prerogative of the leader to control the pack. He's not allowed to accelerate and brake unduly hard and create a concertina back to the field where we get accidents and incidents. But it's up to him when he decides to go, and it looks like it's somewhere about now, doesn't it?
And he's gone very well indeed, hasn't he, there? A long way before the hairpin. Sebastian Vettel locks up a little bit going into that hairpin as well. Valtteri Bottas controlled it nicely from his perspective. We are green, we are racing again, and we end lap 35 with Valtteri Bottas in the lead. From Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton going wide is Kevin Magnussen. Nico Hülkenberg picks him off out of that final corner. Max Verstappen holds off Kimi Räikkönen, and behind here Fernando Alonso and Romain Grosjean going wheel to wheel into turn 1. Fernando Alonso stays ahead of Romain Grosjean. There's Carlos Sainz getting in on the action as well. It was a big moment for Fernando Alonso there. Sainz now puts Grosjean under pressure. Stoffel Van Dorn under pressure from Esteban Ocon in the Force India. Fresher tyres for Ocon there, and his teammate Sergio Perez has Lance Stroll behind him after picking off the Williams at the safety car restart, and the two Force Indias very, very nearly come together in the hairpin at turn 6.
And Ocon made it past Van Dorn. Pierre Gasly's got a 10-second penalty.
That's too cold.
Yeah, he's getting hot. His tyres aren't hot enough, Martin.
For causing that collision, so should he pit again, they will add that to his pit stop. But Hamilton under pressure then from Verstappen. Räikkönen, it has worked out well for him, that safety car, brought him back into play. But Bottas was super smart there.
Yeah.
Is the risk you've got of going too early is you catch the safety car again. Safety car's got to be out of the way. And so he was really slow, let the safety car clear, and then went, I would say, much earlier than you'd expect to start a restart process.
Räikkönen on Verstappen into the hairpin. And he's just a little bit too far back. Verstappen wants to challenge Hamilton, needs to defend from Räikkönen as well, and Ricciardo is right there to maybe get in the mix as we complete yet another lap. And Bottas has a 1.8 second advantage over Sebastian Vettel. This has worked out brilliantly for him, this safety car restart. Vettel under pressure, Hamilton just behind him, but then the big pressure, Verstappen and Räikkönen and Ricciardo, with Nico Hülkenberg setting his fastest lap of the race, getting a bit closer to the Red Bull as well. Round the outside of Romain Grosjean goes Esteban Ocon trying to pick off the Haas. Sergio Perez is waiting there to pounce as well, and behind Perez comes Stoffel Van Dorn in the McLaren as Daniel Ricciardo has a look at Kimi Räikkönen and decides he can't quite get past. But you know what, has that Red Bull got the downforce through turn 7 to maybe try and swoop round the outside? No, he's just a bit too far back on this occasion.
Softer crump tyres, of course, grippier tyres on the Red Bull because they took that pit stop under the safety car. But if he can get in the slipstream down the back straight, we know how brave Ricciardo is on the brake pedal.
Just has he got the horsepower, Martin, to try and use that slipstream and put himself within a shot or even half a shot of getting past Kimi? Remember Monza last year, brilliant move down into turn 1. Can he do it in the hairpin here?
Kimi struggling off turn 13. Ricciardo with much, much more grip through there. DRS will open. Is he at the end? We haven't got DRS yet. We've not done 2 more laps under the safety car.
Here goes Ricciardo now. Maybe he doesn't need DRS. He's got past Räikkönen. Can he make it stick into the hairpin? There he goes again. Daniel Ricciardo late braking, gets past Kimi Räikkönen, and not for the first time in his career either. Ricciardo is up into 5th place.
He did very well to make the apex of the hairpin coming in that late. Here we go. Slipstream. And plenty of grip up the inside. Kimi didn't fight the inevitable. Thought he might have a look at the switchback underneath, but Ricciardo kept it neat and tidy.
He did. Very much under control. Once again, great racing, brave racing. Kimi found a way to fight back, but sadly that door wasn't open to him. Now, Ricciardo can chase after his teammate Max Verstappen. I'll tell you what, Nico Hülkenberg is doing a decent job of holding on to Kimi Räikkönen, to the back of Kimi Räikkönen as well. Very good job being done by Valtteri Bottas out in front. When the DRS is enabled, which it is now, then Sebastian Vettel's going to be a bit too far back to get the benefit from it.
And have the Mercedes and, for example, Vettel, have they got the tyres to keep this kind of pace up till the end of the Grand Prix? Because one thing's for sure, Red Bull have.
Absolutely. Red Bull are going to be pushing the Ferrari and the Mercedes, Ted Kravitz.
Yeah, just a quick one from Mercedes. They don't think that line of whatever it was on the back of Bottas's tyres is blisters. They don't think it's wear. They think it just might be pickup from somewhere, a little bit of material or some old tyres, but they don't think it's serious or threatening to Bottas's pace.
His pace at the moment looking nice indeed.
Hamilton then with a pair of Red Bulls on fresh tyres. At this point he realised it ended up ahead of them on the track, so they must have pitted. And this will be very interesting indeed.
So let's try and put this into simplistic terms here, Martin. Track position for Bottas, for Vettel, for Hamilton in the podium places at the moment. Fresher tyres, extra grip and the ability to push harder for the two Red Bulls and Kimi Räikkönen if he chooses so as well. The Mercedes and the Ferrari Sebastian Vettel have to watch their pace. They don't want their tyres to degrade so much that they'll be sitting ducks at the end as Verstappen has a look at Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton defends well.
And that's how much more grip the Red Bull's got. Look, it's just driving out of the corner. You'll not get around the outside of there, though.
Very
That'll
nearly.
Well, will he?
Well,
oh.
they're very nearly. They touch again. Verstappen, in his eagerness to get past Lewis Hamilton, has lost out to his teammate Daniel Ricciardo. He runs off the road. Should Verstappen just have bided his time a little bit there?
A little bit. It's not. You're not going to get round the outside of Lewis Hamilton there. Lewis got his elbows out, to say the least. So for the second time in 2 consecutive Sundays, they can make contact, those two drivers. Has it damaged the car of Verstappen? But it's now released Ricciardo to be the man that has another go at Hamilton. Hamilton does not have the grip to fight those Red Bull. They pitted on lap 31 and they're on softer tyres. He pitted on lap 18.
Right, let's get after Hamilton. Let's get him.
They have Verstappen ahead of Räikkönen. That running wide by Verstappen has brought Räikkönen back to him again, and we can have a little look at exactly what happened. I think these two have shook hands. They've made up after Bahrain, but it's clear that Lewis Hamilton was not going to yield that place at all. Did he give him enough room?
He didn't give him any room, but I don't think he's entitled or required to. Let's have a look. So basically, turn 7 was over. Max has backed out for turn 7, look. And then he thinks, right, I've got a chance now in the little short run up to 8. And that little short run was suddenly full of Mercedes.
Now here comes Daniel Ricciardo on Lewis Hamilton. Paul di Resta at Sky Race Control. We'll keep an eye on this battle. What's news for you?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Croft, probably the right Red Bull to put the chase on and make these moves. We know Danny Rick's the best overtaker in the paddock at the moment, and I think he's really going to make Mercedes tense now, because they know he's made a move on Raikkonen. He's got the speed with DRS assistance now. I think Lewis is just outside Vettel as well. I think it is a race to the end with these two guys on the case.
And happily, Verstappen appears to have good speed again and hasn't damaged his car, so I wouldn't count him out yet either. He can soon come back from there.
So that's the view that Lewis Hamilton would have looking in his wing mirrors, and he'll see there the Red Bull is within touching distance if he puts one little foot wrong. Gaining down that back straight. Ricciardo goes for it from a long way back. This would be sensational if he makes it. And you know what? He has made it. Daniel Ricciardo came from absolutely nowhere and deserves not only a round of applause, but a standing ovation from that garage. He is up into the podium places. There's no stopping him at times.
Lewis will not enjoy watching that.
Nice shot, mate. Let's keep pushing.
That was
easy. No, it's not, is it? Not Giampere on that one, but yeah, that was just extraordinary, wasn't it? I mean, it just looked not even remotely possible, and that's what Lewis obviously thought.
Absolutely. If he's going to do this, he might as well pull rabbits out of his hat at the same time. That is magic from Daniel Ricciardo.
Lewis saw him coming as well eventually, so good driving from him, but that was incredible. I mean, and he didn't lock a wheel, because as soon as you start putting steering angle in to move to the right of another car or left, if that's the case, it's so easy to lock a wheel. You get weight transfer across the front, and it's so easy to snatch a wheel. So he just got a lovely feel on the brake pedal as Ricciardo, and a belief that it'll stick.
All right, next one's Vettel. Let's get him.
And that one was personal.
Yes.
From Simon Rennie. Yeah, go get the one that left us and went to Ferrari, because we'd like to have him this afternoon.
Ricciardo could win this race yet. 15 laps to go, and he's got the grip, he's got the tyres, and he's got the touch.
Yeah. He's got a couple of other things as well, Martin, and I think that's what actually aids him when it comes to that sort of overtaking. Max Verstappen is right back on Lewis Hamilton's tail once again. Sebastian Vettel's going to have to watch out for Ricciardo. Kimi Raikkonen is just watching things from a distance at the moment. Valtteri Bottas still leads as Ricciardo sets a new fastest lap of this race. He is well within DRS range of Sebastian Vettel. Red Bull, with that bold gamble to pit when the safety car was called, are now reaping the rewards here on lap 42 of the Chinese Grand Prix. Everything to play for, and at the moment they are gaining everything too.
He's a racing burglar, isn't he, Ricciardo? He's always stealing races. Can he steal this one?
And down the inside goes Max Verstappen on Lewis Hamilton. He's been caught by a Red Bull again, and he didn't have the grip to defend. And Verstappen, after running wide 3 laps ago, has caught the Mercedes and now passed him. Hamilton down into 5th, Verstappen up to 4th.
Left the door open, and the young Dutchman drove clean through it. And then, I mean, we saw Lewis down into turn 7 after that. He was really struggling to keep the racing line in the Mercedes.
So, Valtteri Bottas leads. Sebastian Vettel did lead, is currently 2nd. Daniel Ricciardo at one stage looked well out of this race.
This is close. He's much closer than he was to Hamilton.
Well, look, he's got the slipstream. He's going, and Sebastian Vettel is gone. Daniel Ricciardo is up into 2nd place, and that one was the easier move. Red Bull
make it stick
against Ferrari, and the Ferrari did not have the pace to defend against Ricciardo. You said he could win this race, Martin. Give it a couple more laps, he could be in the lead.
Yeah. Well, we talked about it, didn't we? Under the safety car, the amount of extra grip they're going to have, and it's giving him, forget straight line speed. He's coming off the corner so fast that it puts him in play at the end, and then he's got the front tyre grip on the brakes as well.
And Hamilton is now under pressure from Kimi Raikkonen, who's kind of bided his time a little bit here. And Hamilton, who was running in the podium places, could find himself 6th in a few moments' time.
Well done, mate. Easy pickings. Guys, we should have had these new tyres.
That is a call that I'm sure will be repeated at the debrief, Martin. Were Mercedes in a position when the safety car came out to pit in the way that Red Bull did?
Yeah, we'd have to look at the exact geography of exactly where the cars were when it was called, but Red Bull had a little bit more thinking time, and wow, did they make good use of it.
Ted, down to you.
I'm just looking down to Mercedes. Surely now, isn't it too late for Hamilton to come into the pits and try something else on a fresh set of tyres? Because of the safety car, everyone's been bunched up. He'd lose too many places. But
yeah, he'd be out,
there is a bit of movement down there.
He might be out of the points if he pitted now, Ted.
But he's got how many laps left?
13, 14 including this one.
Better to stay out, surely.
If you look at Hamilton's pace, 1:38.8. Nico Hülkenberg 7th, lapping in the mid 1:37.
Bottas locks up. Big lock up. Where does that leave him on the way out? And
Verstappen on the inside of Vettel. They have touched.
Max.
That was inevitable from the moment Verstappen decided to go for it. Kimi Raikkonen has managed to scoot past Lewis Hamilton by the looks of it, but Sebastian Vettel hit by Max Verstappen. Hülkenberg is now on his tail as well. Bottas leads from Ricciardo, Raikkonen, Hamilton, Verstappen and Vettel.
And the Ferrari under pressure, Vettel under pressure from the Renault. He's going to have to cover that off against Hülkenberg, otherwise he's going to lose the place, and he does lose the place to Hülkenberg. The World Championship leader struggling for grip. Maybe they'll have to pit him at the end. Has he got any damage? But I think Verstappen might take a penalty for that as well.
Verstappen saw half a gap, saw a total gap, and then saw a Ferrari in his way. He could not avoid that Ferrari should he have gone for the move in the first place.
No, I don't think it was an opportunity. It was a day late and a dollar short before he stuck his nose in there.
Yeah, you locked up and then just turned it very sharp.
I don't think I need to say anything here.
He was struggling to get the nose into the corner. I think that's what Max registered, that he was. Now, I'm afraid you've got to give that to Max as the fault, as the blame. That's put Hamilton back up.
Well, it's put Hamilton down because he had to take evasive action and go round to the left. It's put Kimi Räikkönen back up into the podium places. Valtteri Bottas, meanwhile, under pressure from Ricciardo once again. The stewards are looking at that collision between Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen.
Look at this for the lead.
0.4 of a second. Forget the time. It is down to a few car lengths as they cross the line to start lap 45 of 56 here in Shanghai. This race has come alive and Red Bull have made it come alive. We have seen the brilliance of Max Verstappen. We have seen maybe too much inexperience, too much from Max Verstappen in terms of a lack of caution, but from his teammate Daniel Ricciardo, he hasn't put a foot wrong yet.
That right rear of Bottas looks even worse
Here
now.
we go. Bottas covers it off, but he can't cover it off totally. Ricciardo somehow finds a gap there, and Valtteri Bottas gave him enough respect and enough room, and he squeezed through Daniel Ricciardo to take the lead of the Chinese Grand Prix. He's gone from 6th to 1st. Surely there wasn't any room. Oh, yes, there was.
I think he thought at the beginning, no, oh no, he's covering me, he's covering me. Actually, do you know what? He hasn't.
Go on. Get it, Kel. Get it. Woo!
That could be hero and zero stuff in there, but he made it stick. Well done, Daniel Ricciardo. Here we go. T5 into the braking zone of 6. Yeah, you could try that, but I'm coming through anyway. And in fact, I can't even stop, so I've got to come through.
Fair play to Valtteri Bottas as well, who I think realised he wasn't going to stop Ricciardo, and if he closed that door anymore, he was going to ruin his race as well. Is that, Martin, something that Sebastian Vettel maybe should have thought about at the hairpin as well? I know Verstappen was coming in and it was a very late lunge, but did Vettel's desire to defend cost him dear as well?
I think because Vettel had turned into the corner, he was a little bit late on the race. He was struggling front grip, but your rival the rivals are now out of your mirrors. You're focusing on the apex. You can't see them any longer. We'll see, but that contact was created by Max Verstappen. Love the kid, love to watch him, don't want to beat up on him, but I think he'll have to take the blame for that.
Yeah, I'm not in any way excusing or discussing what Max did. Sebastian Vettel's defence there meant that he went from potential podium place to now running in 7th.
Don't give up. Can pass will come in.
Yeah, why is it? He lost that place to Hockenberg, didn't he? He went around the outside, so he got dirty tyres from the incident and lost a bit of tyre temperature, but he does seem somewhat dispirited now, doesn't he, Vettel, travelling around there?
Max Verstappen has a 10-second time penalty for causing a collision. Now that will be added to his race time at the end of this race. If this race was to end now, plus 18, Verstappen would finish behind Fernando Alonso in 10th place, or in 9th place, I should say. So he's got a 10-second penalty coming his way. The stewards have handed the blame to Max Verstappen.
And as you know from what I said, I'm not surprised. I understand why he saw what he thought was unfolding in front of him was the Ferrari was going to go wide. Vettel obviously got off the brake pedal, found some front grip, and the car rotated, and they met in the middle.
Here we are again. Verstappen late decides to go for it. Actually, no, Sebastian Vettel. I'll take that back. He didn't excessively defend that, I don't think.
Yeah, he was turning the corner. I mean, the overtaking phase was over into that corner on that particular moment in history.
Now, Verstappen is now on the tail of Lewis Hamilton. If you're Lewis Hamilton, yeah, what do? You know what's coming. Verstappen's not going to change his aggressive style. It works so well for him at times. It doesn't always come off. But if you're Hamilton, you've actually got a chance here to make up a few points on the championship leader, Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Hamilton, hopefully you've been told that Verstappen's got a 10-second penalty. Do not get into contact with him, because you're guaranteed to be ahead of him. Well, 9 laps to go. Is he guaranteed to be ahead 10 seconds ahead of him if his tyres fade?
So Red Bull leading in Formula One for the first time in 2018.
So Verstappen has 10-second penalty to be added at the end of the race and keep you posted on gap.
Was worth it then.
And on board with Max Verstappen. Lewis Hamilton ahead of him. Down the back straight we go then, and everyone I think edging closer to the edge of their sofa, because we know what's coming, and Hamilton knows what's coming, and Verstappen knows what he wants to do, but he's just a bit too far back on this occasion. But there he gets better traction out of the hairpin, and Hamilton can breathe slightly easily, but he's still going to be there, the Red Bull driver.
Verstappen at 0.8.
Just leave me to it, man.
So into turn one we go, more DRS for Max Verstappen, and the fastest lap of the race for Daniel Ricciardo, the race leader. Remember, Daniel Ricciardo was about 2 minutes away from not taking his place in qualifying after a turbo failure in final practice on Saturday. It was a race against time by the Red Bull crew to get him out on the track. He qualified on the third row, he's leading the race. His teammate Max Verstappen has now got past Lewis Hamilton. He's got a 10-second penalty still coming his way, but now he's got some clean air to try and build a gap on Lewis Hamilton and those behind, the likes of Hülkenberg and Vettel, but he really is struggling, Hamilton.
And on those tyres, I think he's got a half a chance of building a 10-second gap over Hamilton as well to maintain that fourth place.
Christian Horner, where do we start? First and foremost, Daniel Ricciardo. What an epic drive the Australian is giving us this afternoon.
Yeah, amazing. Great, passing move down into turn 14. And again into turn 6 with Valtteri, so he's done a mega job out there.
As for Max Verstappen, how did you call and how did you see the incident with Sebastian Vettel?
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's picked up the penalty. That's what it is. He's got to get his head down now and try and, build out that 10 seconds to get as high up the order as he can. So he's got a tyre advantage. Obviously need to use it.
You're a racing driver, Christian. Would you have gone for that move?
I never raced at his level, so he saw a gap, he's gone through, it was closing, so he's picked up the penalty, and he's just got to get on with it now.
So what do you do now with Daniel out front? Is it just management to the end, fuel, tyres, brakes? What's the discussion going on?
I think we clench our butt cheeks and hope we stay there to the end, Martin.
And hope there's no safety car.
Yeah, we're on a good tyre though, to get to the end, so not too worried about that.
And it is an incredible story, Christian, isn't it, for a man who was 2 minutes away from not being able to qualify for this Grand Prix, and he's currently leading it.
Yeah, but there's still 7 or 8 laps to go, so not counting any chickens.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Christian.
Kimi Räikkönen catching Valtteri Bottas. Second and third. Verstappen not that far behind them, but he has got his 10-second penalty to add. So can Räikkönen do something now? Räikkönen, of course, had that nice pit stop on lap 27. Bottas on lap 19. There's got to be a good chance Räikkönen can steal second place here.
And that would be absolutely magnificent for Kimi, who, because of his long first stint on the soft compound tyres, had seen go from the top 2 and leading at one stage to 6th after the first round of pit stops, and doing the right thing for his team and the wrong thing for him at that time, but it swung back again to Kimi Räikkönen.
We've been watching the Demolition Derby at the front, Crofty. Just have a look down. Hülkenberg's having a fine afternoon in 6th ahead of Vettel. Alonso in the points again for McLaren. Sainz in the second Renault. Magnussen just in the points as well, being chased down by 2 Force Indias. So some great driving through the field. And at the moment, Verstappen, for example, is 11 seconds ahead of Vettel. So he's net ahead of them even after his penalty. He's just got to somehow try and clear Hülkenberg and Hamilton in these closing laps to maintain his 4th place.
And There is Kimi Räikkönen on Valtteri Bottas. In his 100th Grand Prix, Bottas was leading and was looking good, and the safety car has rather turned things around for him. Kimi Räikkönen on fresher tyres. Bottas has got to defend in the way that he did against Sebastian Vettel, against the other Ferrari here. 6 laps remaining, and time is running out, but there is enough time for Kimi Räikkönen to try and get up into second place. Out in front, Ricciardo still stretching his advantage. Behind Räikkönen, Verstappen closing in on the Finn as he bids to put a bit more of a distance between himself and Hamilton and Hülkenberg and Vettel, with that 10-second penalty for causing a collision coming his way at the end of the race. Down towards the hairpin we go. DRS for Kimi Räikkönen. He's a bit too far back to make a move on this occasion, but he closes right up to the Mercedes, who have never gone, remember, 3 races in this turbo hybrid era without winning a Grand Prix. And as it stands at the moment, they look like they're going to start the opening races of this season without a victory. Didn't happen in Australia, didn't happen in Bahrain, it's not happening here in China today either. Räikkönen has a little look into turn 1, nothing doing on this occasion.
So Bottas was just on a personal best, but Räikkönen was still 0.3 faster than him.
He was, and there's the sector comparisons.
That's the washout you get when you're following another car closely. We just saw the front of the Ferrari there just washing across the track. Understeer it's called. But of course, when you're on those fresher tyres, you've got so much more braking potential as well. Not that did him much good in turn 6 because he missed the racing line.
Yeah, he outbraked himself a little bit there, and it cost him quite a bit of distance. Oh, I feel like we could all take a big deep breath now after the last few laps, but
Max Verstappen will be kicking himself for the trip across the gravel with Hamilton and because, you know, he could have been winning this race as well.
I don't want to be too hard on Max Verstappen because I love his style, Martin. I love watching him. It was this Grand Prix in China when he was a Toro Rosso driver that really put him on a stage where we knew what he was capable of in terms of late braking and great moves. But you just get the feeling in his, 3rd season now in Formula One, Verstappen, that, 4th season I should say, that a bit of caution occasionally might not be a bad thing.
But to finish first you must finish and intact. And yeah, he needs his percentages. His percentage game is not quite right, is it? Taking too many risks. And these are hard races. You're not going to put a move around the outside of Hamilton in a fast corner and expect to get away with it too easily, or come at a 4-time world champion like Vettel and expect him to just jump out of the way.
Yeah, you're never going to win a game of poker going all in at every hand. Yeah. And sometimes with Verstappen,
good analogy, yeah.
You get the feeling that it's all in or nothing. Ted, to you.
I'm down at a very, very angry Ferrari garage. Actually, well, garage can't be angry, can it? The people inside it, the
walls are literally
very angry.
With
they
fury.
are. No, they're absolutely furious. And it seems that Vettel's just dropping pace already, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's actually slower than Hülkenberg, the Renault in front of him, every lap.
He's been caught by Alonso, you know.
Yeah. It seems that in recovering from that, maybe he's just worn those rear tyres. I think his rear tyres are gone. Obviously, he did spin them up quite a lot, didn't he? Would have taken a little bit of gauge off them in recovering from the Verstappen spin. But, you know, what looked like such a great weekend, dominating the front row. Then you get mugged by Valtteri Bottas with some great Ferrari strategy, thanks to a slow Ferrari pit stop. And then he got Verstappen.
He did. Sebastian Vettel, last lap, 1:38.2. Fernando Alonso was a 1:37.4. The gap between Vettel and Alonso under 2 seconds now.
So Verstappen, with his 10-second penalties, really needs to get past Räikkönen and Bottas, because to make sure he can clear Hamilton and Hülkenberg once his penalty's been applied. So he can't just sit behind these two. This is going to be quite interesting.
Right, Kimi Räikkönen's a lot closer to Valtteri Bottas coming out of the final corner at the end of lap 52. As the flags flutter. The stiff breeze we haven't got anymore. The hot action we certainly have got on this track. Bottas going a little bit wider through turn 2. Verstappen is closing on Kimi Räikkönen, closing on Valtteri Bottas. Bottas holding off the Ferrari. Time is running out for Kimi Räikkönen. When will he make his move? Can he make his move on Bottas to get up into second place? Daniel Ricciardo still out in front. Nearly 6 seconds now between Ricciardo and Bottas. Ricciardo carrying on that amazing run of his in Formula One, on his way to a 6th win. And don't forget, he's a man that only wins starting outside the top 4 as the Toro Rosso of Brendan Hartley out of this race.
Once we get we're into turn 11, that feeds into 12, that becomes the long right of 13. That's the critical one to get off. And this is the point I'm making about Verstappen. He really needs to get in amongst these two. So let's just check where Verstappen is. He is still behind. No, he's ahead of Hülkenberg now with his net penalty. Yep. But still behind Hamilton, so he dropped 1 place with his penalty at the moment.
You don't want to be dropping any places at all. Valtteri Bottas still not prepared to drop from that 2nd place. I just get the feeling he's holding up Kimi Räikkönen, but he's managing to stay ahead in the areas where Räikkönen can challenge.
Verstappen getting a bit tail happy coming out of the last corner.
2nd, 3rd, 4th, separated by less than a couple of seconds.
14 kilometres to go, it says at the top of the screen. So Kimi likes a much tighter line into turn 1, but it's not really gaining him too much. And then he gets a little bit squirrely just coming out of 2 in the turbulent air of the Mercedes.
While we're watching from the rear wing of Valtteri Bottas Mercedes, I've just seen Sebastian Vettel pursued by Fernando Alonso down the main straight. Alonso's within DRS range of Sebastian Vettel at the moment.
That'd be a shocker, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I'd be surprised if Vettel's damaged.
They're losing so much grip behind him.
Yeah, it really is.
He's losing grip. I think Vettel's tyres losing a lot of grip.
They must be.
After that incident.
Yeah.
On board with Alonso. There's Sebastian Vettel. Martin, how does that Ferrari look coming out of the hairpin to you?
It looks all right, but he's clearly lacking pace. But of course, when he lit the tyres up after his half spin, that wouldn't have done them any. You flashed the surface temperature of the tyre up and changed the property of the compound. So he's really struggling overall, isn't he, Vettel, for grip? Because they barely touched, did they? It was like a synchronised sort of spin, really. But so I didn't imagine any pieces of bodywork broken too much in there.
Sebastian Vettel is going to be furious after this race, and you wonder what comments he'll make towards Max Verstappen. You wonder if the two drivers will have a chat about it. The stewards have made their decision. Verstappen penalised, but Vettel, through no fault of his own, has come off worse in terms of his finishing position on the track. Back then to what's happening on the track. Alonso's gaining on him, but not quite enough to make a move.
Safety car helper. Good drive from Alonso, isn't it? Great drive.
He comes alive when he's got a sniff of battle, of engagement out there.
Especially if it's a Ferrari.
He's still got a few points to prove, I'm sure, on that one. Lap 55 of 56. Whilst Ricciardo is out in front and contemplating Martin Brundle where he might be drinking the champagne on the podium. Fernando Alonso is still fighting away. And Sebastian Vettel, did he get any contact from Alonso there going through turn 2? Alonso is ahead of the Ferrari and Alonso is up into 7th place. Sebastian Vettel has lost out once again. If there wasn't any contact, he really did have to back out. He locks up going into the hairpin. And Carlos Sainz might start getting interested on Sebastian Vettel soon as well.
So we're going to swap underneath him and then just run him clean out of road.
You can't just run me off the track like that. It was intentional.
Sebastian Vettel had to go off track there. That cost him. He then locked up into the hairpin. We can see it better now, Martin, from this angle.
Alonso said taking the racing line, and he was. I don't see a problem with that.
Bottas, Räikkönen, Verstappen.
So Verstappen's getting in amongst his action with his 10-second penalty. What's he going to do in these closing stages? Is he going to send one up the inside of that pair despite a 10-second penalty?
We are on to the final lap, and in all honesty, don't even blink for the next 3 miles because anything could happen right here. Daniel Ricciardo is leading this race. Some magnificent overtakes. If you're voting for the driver of the day, I dare say he's going to pick up just a fair few percentage of the vote. Behind him, Valtteri Bottas, who did lead, is hanging on to Kimi Räikkönen behind him, and Räikkönen did lead this race as well. And then Max Verstappen, who hasn't led this race, but he went a long way to influencing the performance of Sebastian Vettel, who's down in 8th, who did lead this race, but was hit by Verstappen after the safety car. Hamilton running a race on his own at the moment in 5th. and probably the only man breathing quite calmly on this final lap, because ahead of him, well, Ricciardo's thinking, right, I've nearly got this in the bag. Bottas is thinking, please, I want the checkered flag. And Kimi and Verstappen are thinking, right, one more go. We can do this.
Let's see the incident with Vettel and Alonso noted, according to the stewards. They'll be having a look at that after the race. But I have to say, it looks like Bottas has got Kimi Räikkönen covered.
So, Daniel Ricciardo out in front. Not been the happiest hunting ground in the past for this young Australian. Red Bull hadn't even led a lap in 2018 before today. Daniel Ricciardo retired from 4 of the last 6 races. He had a turbo failure in practice. He very nearly missed out on qualifying. He has made every single opportunity that's come his way today. Ricciardo wins the Chinese Grand Prix. Behind him, Bottas makes it home to second place, ahead of Kimi Räikkönen, with Max Verstappen finishing in 4th place. And there's Carlos Sainz on Sebastian Vettel, down to the hairpin. Sainz has a little look, decides he can't get past. Sebastian Vettel was leading this race. He's going to come home to finish in 8th place. Alonso ahead of him, Hülkenberg in 6th. Lewis Hamilton will finish 4th because Max Verstappen takes a 10-second penalty, and that 10 seconds drops him behind Lewis Hamilton. Disappointment then for him, but absolute elation for Red Bull, who have won the Chinese Grand Prix through Daniel Ricciardo. It's his 6th win in Formula One, and as for the previous 5, it's from outside the top 3.
Yes, boys.
Nice job, mate. Nice job.
Holy
Amazing job, mate. That was absolutely clinical moves. Cutthroat. Scary.
Holy moly. Daniel Ricciardo can scarcely believe what has just happened. He was running in 6th place in the early stages and looked way off the lead. But a brave call by Red Bull when the safety car came out to switch for fresh tyres, put him and his teammate Max Verstappen very much in contention. And when Verstappen got it wrong, Ricciardo said, thank you very much, I'll get it right. Verstappen tried to make a move on Lewis Hamilton, it didn't come off. Ricciardo got past him. Verstappen tried to make a move on Sebastian Vettel, that really didn't come off. Ricciardo was leading by that stage. Verstappen had to take that 10-second penalty. Valtteri Bottas second then, ahead of Kimi Räikkönen. Lewis Hamilton finishes 4th, but he does break the all-time record for consecutive points finishes. It's his 28th points finish in a row. He takes the record off that man we just saw there, Kimi Räikkönen, who's only finished on the podium in China once in the previous 10 years. He was second in 2013 and comes home 3rd for Ferrari today. And there, Verstappen. What an afternoon it has been for the Red Bull team. Sebastian Vettel behind him, Carlos Sainz, Kevin Magnussen in the points.
safety car was so unlucky for us.
Mercedes bemoaning the bad luck of the timing of the safety car. Let's get some reaction from Christian Horner, who's with Ted Kravitz.
Christian, what a story. Yesterday it looked like he might not even qualify, and today's won the race.
Amazing. I mean, a fantastic team effort today. I mean, hats off to the guys in the garage. They've done 2 double pit stops as well. You know, nailed the strategy, and Daniel's executed the perfect race.
And it was a perfect opportunity with the safety car to make it all happen, wasn't it?
Totally. I mean, it was a late call, it was a last-minute call, but got them both turned around, and you know, to see him win this race, first time we've won here since 2010. After the bad luck he's had in the last couple of races, it's great to see him, you know, on the podium winning this Grand Prix.
I think Max is going to come in for some heat from Sebastian and Ferrari.
Yeah, I mean, look, it looks like a mistake. He's got penalised for it. He's young, he's aggressive. That's what makes him exciting to watch, and you know, he's paid the price today.
Well done today.
A nod and a roar of approval. Daniel Ricciardo has just said, I can't stop smiling. He's not the only one, to be honest. when he puts in some of the moves that he puts in, just makes you feel glad to be alive and watching Formula One. Magnificent effort. Comes from so far back and keeps such great car control. He has earned this victory today as Daniel Ricciardo, and has earned those celebrations with his Red Bull team. When was he going to catch a break, we wondered. 4 of the last 6 races before this he'd retired from. The batteries went in Bahrain. He was fully charged today. Sebastian Vettel has a little look. It's the Red Bull car. His Ferrari having contact with Max Verstappen and finishing down in 8th place in the end. On stage, very nice for him this afternoon. Certainly this race turned around when Mercedes initially went aggressive on strategy and managed to push Ferrari. Didn't react in time, the Scuderia, and then it swung once again on the safety car that I won't apologise, says the honey badger, nothing to say sorry about today. But that safety car, perfect timing for Red Bull. Not the best timing at all for either of the two Mercedes drivers. We have one retirement from this race, Brendan Hartley, who has retired about 5 laps from the end. Kevin Magnussen in the points once again for Haas, behind Carlos Sainz. 2 Force Indias just missing out, Ocon and Perez 11th and 12th. The crowd wait for the drivers to come out. Championship leader Sebastian Vettel, he retains, on the podium I should say, retains the championship lead. He's 11 points ahead of Lewis Hamilton after his worst finish in China since he came 9th for Toro Rosso here 10 years ago. Took the helmet, Marco, shaking hands of anyone who wants to shake hands with him. Someone smuggled a koala into the pit lane. The finishing order, Red Bull ahead of Mercedes, ahead of Ferrari. Red Bull pushing themselves maybe back into this title race this afternoon. Boy, do they have the pace and the fresher tyres in those last laps.
I have it here. Yeah. It's coming. Cheers. No worries.
So needs his helmet to get weighed. Joe Bauer from the FIA.
Thank you very much.
Closing down all the drivers' weights. Let's have a listen to the reaction in the cool-down room.
You ready? You ready for you? Cheers.
Thanks, mate. Yeah. Let's do it.
Okay, we ready to go?
He wants to get out there very quickly and get his winner's trophy. He's a man looking for conversation, but I don't think Valtteri Bottas and Kimi Raikkonen are much in the mood for talking.
Wow, what a brilliant race, and in 3rd place was Kimi Raikkonen from Finland.
So Kimi Raikkonen with his 93rd podium in Formula One.
In 2nd place, his compatriot, Valtteri Bottas.
It's the 24th podium for Valtteri Bottas in his 100th Grand Prix.
But the winner, a brilliant win for both Daniel Ricciardo and Aston Martin Red Bull Racing, and in their honour, we will hear the Australian and
Daniel Ricciardo, victory for him. Never won a race so early in the season, but he has today. There are tears amongst the smiles for Daniel Ricciardo, who keeps up a quite incredible record. 6 wins in Formula One for the Australian, and every one of those wins from outside the top 3 on the grid. He is a man who makes things happen, and boy did he make things happen out there this afternoon. Red Bull, a week on from their 38 race point scoring streak coming to an end, bounce back with victory and take their first victory of 2018. Valtteri Bottas takes the second place trophy then for the second week in a row, from Bahrain to China, and he finishes up as runner-up. Kimi Raikkonen, third place for him. And the Chinese Grand Prix, the safety car helped him to get back into the race. His teammate has the championship lead. Raikkonen has a third place trophy and silverware today. But Ricciardo has the win. And if this is a big year for Daniel Ricciardo, with his contract coming to an end, maybe after today there'll be even more teams queuing up for this man's signature, because that was one hell of a race win for Daniel Ricciardo. Absolutely brilliant. He takes it for Red Bull. Martin Brundle has made his way down towards the podium. We'll see him in a minute. But first, the traditional shoey. No need to bring a glass. He's got his racing boots to drink from. And I'm sure it shouldn't, but it tastes very, very sweet indeed for both team and for driver. Let's hear from the drivers. Kimi Raikkonen, from Valtteri Bottas and Daniel Ricciardo. Martin Brundle will be making his way onto the podium after the pictures, of course. Because when you're smiling like that, who wouldn't want to take a picture?
Now interviewing the drivers on the podium, former Grand Prix driver and respected TV pundit, Martin Brundle.
Ni hao. Ni hao ma. Daniel, do you want to jump down here? What an absolute star. What a race.
Thanks, mate.
Your sixth victory, but is that the sweetest one?
I don't know what it is. I don't seem to win boring races. They're all pretty fun, so that was unexpected. You know, put ourselves 24 hours ago. I thought we may be starting at the back of the grid, so firstly, thanks to the boys yesterday. I thanked them after qualifying, but today is the real reward for that work. So thank you to everyone at Aston Martin Red Bull Racing. The mechanics worked their butts off. So
and the team had their brain in gear, didn't they, under the safety car, getting you in the pit lane. Double stacked the car twice, so the pit crew were on it as well.
Yeah, it was hectic. I heard safety car in turn 14, and they said we're going to double stop, come in the box, and it happened very quickly, but very decisive moves, winning moves also from the team. So thanks a lot, and fat lip and all, I got the win.
Just take us through one of the great overtakes, maybe on Lewis. I mean, that came out of nowhere down into the turn 14 hairpin.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to lick the stamp and send it. So there we go. I enjoyed it very much.
And it kept it up. You still made the apex somehow. Extraordinary.
Yeah, it was obviously we had the soft tyre, so I knew I could always get a little bit more out of the braking than them. So a lot of the time you get one chance to try, so I made the most of every opportunity.
You're a little bit closer to Valtteri when you passed him than you are now, but Valtteri, kind of bittersweet. Your 100th Grand Prix start, the safety car didn't play into your hands and left you on some slightly older tyres and struggling a little bit.
Yeah, you know, the race was going pretty well for us, and we're looking strong all the way until the guys during the safety car stopped, and we were in trouble really then with the Daniel and nearly with Kimi in the end. So yeah, it is disappointing. You know, we're giving everything we had, and yeah, kind of felt like we deserved victory, but not today.
Without the safety car, do you think you had enough grip and pace to keep Sebastian behind you and take the victory?
It felt like, you know, everything was under control so far, and I had no major drop-off in the end. So I think we could have done it, but yeah, this is racing. These things happen.
Okay, 2 Finns on the podium today, of course. Kimi, wow, it looked like you were a bit out of position. Clearly the most popular driver here today. It looks like you were struggling a bit. They kept you out a long time before the pit stop. And then, obviously, the safety car played into your hands. You had great speed and got yourself back on the podium.
Yeah, I think we made a good start. Then got, unfortunately, blocked a bit and passed in the first corners and struggled a little bit following people on the beginning. On my own, it wasn't too bad, but for sure, far from ideal on the start of the race. And then, obviously, we stayed very long out, so you know, a little bit luck with the safety car. I had a good speed on the mediums, but in the end we would have needed the soft tires to really go for it. But yeah, I think I was kind of okay in the end, but once I got close, I got much more speed than Valtteri. But once you get close, it's so difficult to follow people. To get a good run, you need the much better tires to get that proper run and can kind of offset yourself. But yeah, I'll take what I got, because at one point it didn't look good at all. So.
Good stuff. I think that's the most words I've ever heard from you. Nice job there, Kimi. I just want to, let's go through the other overtake when you passed Valtteri down into turn 6, because that looked a little bit touch and go.
Yeah, it was close. You know, I think it was hard but fair. But I saw him I saw him defend, so I wanted to go shallower, but then he came a bit more, so I thought about pulling out. No, I'm just kidding. I was going to pull out. No, I knew there would always be enough room, and the tyres had pretty good grip. So worst case, I went wide and I'd have another crack somewhere else.
So you're drinking the champagne then out of your own shoe. Last time I did that with you in Azerbaijan, exactly. I was sick for about 6 months.
Do you want some?
No, thanks. Thanks a lot. No way. You won, of course, in Azerbaijan last year, where the next Grand Prix is. So let's wish everybody can join us there. What an amazing season this is turning out to be, and we look forward to you seeing us in Baku.
An absolute epic. Couldn't take your eyes off it, could you, from start to finish, and a magnificent display by Daniel Ricciardo. You can see from the crowd here just how popular he is becoming as a driver, or already is. Amazing. And still trying to force Martin to do one. Go on, do it. Do it, Brundle. No. Flat refusal.